The battlefield was quiet now, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the heavy, suffocating silence that comes after chaos, when smoke still rises from broken machines and the smell of fire hangs in the air. Sergeant Daniel Voss, of the Terran Marine Corps, stepped carefully over shattered metal and scorched stone, his rifle held ready. His boots crunched over blackened soil that had once been a thriving outpost but was now nothing more than ruin. The war between humanity and the Cathari had lasted 3 years, and this moon had been one of the fiercest fronts. Both sides had fought hard here. Both sides had lost much. Now, as Daniel moved through the wreckage, he was one of the few still alive. His orders were simple: search for survivors, bring back the wounded, mark the dead. But the longer he walked, the more it felt like a graveyard with no end. He saw broken human armor and burned Cathari banners scattered together, enemies in life but now equal in death. Daniel stopped beside a fallen mech, half buried in the dirt. Its cockpit had been torn open, and its pilot, a young human soldier, lay lifeless beside it. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, pressing his lips together. He had no words left for the dead. Too many had already gone. He moved on. The wind carried faint sounds through the smoke. A low, rasping breath, then a cough. Daniel froze. He raised his rifle and turned toward the sound. His eyes narrowed as he stepped carefully past rubble and broken machinery. There, half buried beneath twisted metal, lay a figure. Not human. Her armor was deep bronze, scratched and torn. Her body was tall, muscular, but her legs were gone below, the knees. Shards of stone and steel lay where her limbs should have been, and blood, dark blue instead of red, had dried on the ground around her. She was Cathari, one of humanity's fiercest enemies. Daniel's training told him what to do. Keep his weapon ready, check if she was armed, and then move on. She was the enemy. She was dangerous. She was dying. But then she opened her eyes. They were sharp, burning with pain and fury, yet also filled with something he had not expected: defiance. She saw him, a human Marine, standing over her. Her lips curled and her voice came out harsh, broken but strong. Human. Finish it. Daniel blinked. What? Kill me, she said, her words rough but clear. Do not let me rot here. Her hands clenched at the ground as if even in this state she was ready to fight. She would not beg. She would not cry. She only demanded an end worthy of a warrior. Daniel lowered his rifle slightly. He could see the pride in her eyes. She was prepared to die rather than be abandoned, but something in him refused. I'm not here to kill the wounded, Daniel said quietly. I'm here to bring survivors home. She gave a bitter laugh that turned into a cough. Home? You think I have one now? My people left me here. Broken. Useless. A Cathari warrior with no legs is already dead. You cannot save me, human. Daniel crouched beside her. He studied the ruined stumps where her legs had been. The blood had clotted. She was not bleeding out anymore, but she was weak. Her own soldiers must have passed her by, deciding she was no longer worth saving. That thought made something twist in his chest. You're still breathing, he said. That's enough for me. Her jaw tightened. Mercy is weakness. You humans cling to it like children. Leave me. Walk away. If you will not grant me death, then at least do not shame me with pity. Daniel met her gaze. This isn't pity. It's duty. The alien warrior glared at him, but there was confusion in her eyes now. She had expected hatred, cruelty, or at best indifference. Instead, this human was speaking to her as if she was one of his own wounded. Daniel slid his rifle onto his back and reached for the metal pinned across her torso. Hold still, she snarled. What are you doing? Getting this junk off you. He grunted as he lifted the twisted steel beam. It scraped against her armor, and she winced but did not cry out. Daniel pushed until the beam rolled aside, with a heavy thud. Then, without hesitation, he bent down, hooked his arms beneath her, and lifted her onto his shoulders. The warrior stiffened, shocked, What are you doing? Taking you with me. You are mad, she spat. I am your enemy. Not today. Daniel adjusted her weight and started walking. The ruins stretched out before him, each step heavy with her armored frame pressing down on his shoulders. She was taller than him, heavier too, but he did not falter. His muscles strained, his lungs burned, but he kept moving. Behind him, smoke drifted into the sky. Ahead, the path was filled with dangers, collapsing structures, patrol drones that had not yet shut down, scavenger machines searching for salvage. But Daniel did not stop. On his shoulder, the alien warrior shifted, trying to look at him. Her pride battled with disbelief. She had fought humans for years, calling them reckless, fragile, and foolish. Yet here one was, carrying her, when even her own kind had left her to die. Why? She asked finally, her voice low. Daniel kept his eyes on the path. Because no one deserves to be left behind. Her chest rose and fell. She wanted to argue, to reject his words. But for the first time in a long while, she had no answer. The silence of the battlefield stretched around, then broken only by the sound of Daniel's boots against the ground and the faint hum of distant fire still burning. The war was over here, but for the two of them something new had begun. An unexpected journey neither had chosen, but both would have to face together. Daniel Voss, human marine, and Tara, Kithari commander, once sworn enemies, now bound by survival. And though neither of them knew it yet, this choice to refuse abandonment would echo far beyond the broken moon. The path through the ruins was long and dangerous. Sergeant Daniel Voss carried the alien warrior on his shoulders, her bronze armor pressing heavily against his back. Each step tested his strength, but he did not slow down. Smoke drifted through. The air and the ground still shook now and then from collapsing structures. The battlefield was quiet, but it was the kind of silence that promised hidden threats. The alien, Commander Tara, remained tense as she lay across his shoulders. Her pride made her restless, and her voice was sharp even in weakness. You will die for this, she muttered. Carrying me will only slow you down. When the scavenger drones find us, you will not escape. Daniel adjusted his grip and kept moving. Then I'll just have to make sure they don't find us. You cannot fight them while dragging dead weight, she snapped. Daniel smirked slightly. Funny, you don't sound dead to me. Her jaw tightened, but she fell silent. The ruins of the battlefield stretched for kilometers. Broken mechs lay like fallen giants, their twisted arms reaching into the sky. Craters scarred the ground and shattered ships smoldered in the distance. Daniel moved carefully, stepping around debris while keeping his eyes open for movement. Tara stirred on his shoulders. Why? She asked suddenly. Daniel frowned. Why what? Why are you carrying me? You gain nothing. Your commanders will not reward you. Your soldiers will not thank you. I am your enemy. Daniel thought for a moment before answering. Because it's the right thing to do. Her voice dripped with disbelief. The right thing? There is no right or wrong in war. Only victory or death. Maybe for you, Daniel said quietly. But not for me. She fell silent again, but he could feel her eyes on him. Hours passed as Daniel searched for safe ground. He found a collapsed bunker and lowered Tara carefully inside. The space was dark but protected from the wind and the sight of drones overhead. Daniel set her down gently against the wall. She pushed his hands away, still too proud to accept help, but she was too weak to move on her own. Daniel removed his pack and pulled out a small field kit. He knelt beside her. Your wounds need cleaning, she scowled. Do not waste your medicine on me. I will not survive. You will if I have anything to say about it. Without waiting for her permission, he opened a vial of antiseptic and began carefully cleaning the burned stumps where her legs had been. She winced but did not cry out. Her fists clenched and her eyes locked on him with a mix of anger and confusion. No human has ever touched me like this, she muttered. Daniel gave her a calm look. Guess there's a first time for everything. He wrapped her wounds with clean bandages, working with practiced skill. Years of tending to wounded soldiers had made his hands steady. When he finished, he leaned back. There, not perfect but better than before. Tara looked at him for a long moment. Finally, she said, "You should not have done that, it makes you weak." Daniel shook his head. "No, it makes me human." Night fell over the ruined moon. The sky glowed faintly from fires still burning in the distance. Inside the bunker, Daniel built a small heat lamp from spare power cells and shards of metal. Its dim glow lit the space, casting long shadows across the cracked walls. Tara shifted slightly, her pride clashing with her exhaustion. "Your soldiers will be searching for you. If they find you with me, they will not understand." Daniel shrugged. "Let them not understand. I'm not leaving you." "You are stubborn," she said. "I've been told that." She almost smiled, but quickly turned her head away. Later, as Daniel ate from a ration pack, he noticed her watching him. He broke the pack in half and offered it to her. She stared at the food. "I will not eat human rations." "Then starve," Daniel said simply. He placed the food beside her and returned to his own meal. Minutes passed in silence before she finally picked up the food. She sniffed it, frowned, then took a bite. She chewed slowly, her expression unreadable. Daniel hid a small smile. The night was restless. Distant sounds echoed outside, the whirring of drones, the shifting of debris. Daniel sat at the entrance, rifle across his lap, eyes sharp. Behind him, Tara dozed fitfully. In the middle of the night, she stirred and spoke softly, almost to herself. "My people. They left me. Not even a farewell." Daniel didn't turn. "I know the feeling. I've lost people too. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't losing them. It's realizing they didn't even get the chance to say goodbye." Tara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Perhaps we are not so different." Daniel gave a small nod, though she couldn't see it. Morning came with a pale light. Daniel shook Tara gently awake. "We have to move." She opened her eyes slowly. "Move where? This moon is nothing but ruins." "There's an extraction point 2 clicks north," Daniel explained. "If we can make it there, we might catch a signal, maybe even a ride out." Tara studied him. "And you plan to carry me the whole way?" "Unless you plan to grow new legs overnight," he said. She gave him a sharp look, then let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "You are impossible." "Comes with the job," Daniel replied, hoisting her onto his shoulders again. The journey north was harder than before. Drones still roamed the skies, scanning the ruins for movement. Twice Daniel had to duck into cover as machines flew overhead, their red eyes sweeping the ground. Each time he held his breath and kept perfectly still until they passed. At one point, a patrol of scavenger bots crawled across the rubble, their claws clicking against stone. Daniel crouched behind a broken wall, Tara's weight pressing down on him. One bot came dangerously close, its sensor beam sweeping inches away. "Tara," whispered, "leave me. If they see us, you cannot fight while carrying me." Daniel's voice was firm. "I'm not leaving you." The bot paused, then turned away. Slowly, the machines moved on. Daniel exhaled, his grip tightening on his rifle. Tara looked at him, with something new in her eyes. Respect. By midday, Daniel's muscles burned from the constant weight. Sweat dripped down his face and every step felt heavier than the last. Still, he refused to stop. Finally, they reached a ridge overlooking the north side of the battlefield. Smoke curled from wrecked ships, and in the distance, Daniel saw faint signal beacons still flashing weakly. "That's it," he said. "The extraction point." Tara followed his gaze, then looked at him. "Even if we reach it, your people may not take me. Then I'll make them." Her eyes softened for just a moment. "You risk everything for me, human. Why?" Daniel adjusted her weight on his shoulders. "Because no one deserves to be left for dead. Not even my enemy." And with that, he started down the ridge, carrying her toward the beacon, unaware of the trials still waiting ahead. The ridge was steep, and the path down was scattered with broken stone and shattered machines. Daniel Voss tightened his grip on the alien warrior and began the slow descent. His legs shook under the weight, but he refused to stop. Each step was a test of strength, and each breath burned in his chest, yet his mind stayed firm. Commander Tara rested against his shoulders, her bronze armor still dented and stained with blood. She had grown quiet since they had spotted the beacon in the distance. Her sharp words, once constant, had turned into silence. She was watching, thinking, perhaps even questioning her own beliefs. The silence did not last long. As Daniel reached the bottom of the ridge, a faint buzzing filled the air. He froze and crouched low behind a pile of stone, lowering Tara carefully beside him. "Drones," she whispered. Daniel nodded. The buzzing grew louder, and soon 3 scout drones flew overhead, their red sensors glowing. They swept their beams across the ground, searching for signs of movement. Daniel pressed himself against the rubble, holding his breath. Tara lay still, her eyes locked on the machines. For a moment it seemed they might pass, but then one drone turned sharply, its beam landing on the rubble near them. Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle. The drone hovered closer, its mechanical body clicking and whirring as it scanned. Tara whispered, "If they see us, run. Leave me." "Not happening," Daniel muttered. The drone tilted forward, scanning the rubble again. Daniel's muscles tensed. He waited until it drew near, then raised his rifle and fired. A burst of energy tore through the air, striking the drone squarely. Sparks flew and the machine collapsed to the ground. The other 2 drones swiveled immediately, their red eyes flashing. They fired beams of light that cut through the rubble, sending fragments flying. Daniel ducked low and returned fire, his shots precise. One drone fell, then the other crashing into the dirt with heavy thuds. The battlefield fell quiet again, but the silence now felt even heavier. Daniel lowered his rifle, his breath ragged. "We can't stay here. They'll send more." He moved, quickly, lifting Tara back onto his shoulders. She looked at him, her voice low. "You risked your life to protect me again." Daniel grunted as he started walking. "That's what I do." The journey toward the beacon stretched on. The smoke in the air made breathing hard, and the heat from burning wrecks clung to his skin. Daniel pushed forward anyway, step after step. Tara finally spoke again. "My people, we would never do this. A wounded soldier is left behind so the strong can move faster. That is the way of war. To carry me would be seen as weakness." Daniel glanced at her. "Maybe that's why you lost this battle." Her eyes narrowed, but there was no real anger in them, only thought. "Or maybe it is why humans are different." "Different doesn't mean wrong," Daniel said simply. Tara leaned back against him, closing her eyes. She was quiet for a long time after that. By evening they reached a ruined transport ship. Its hull was cracked open, and smoke still drifted from its engines. Daniel decided to stop there for the night. He lowered Tara gently onto a piece of metal that had fallen like a bench and scanned the area. The ship was quiet, no drones in sight. Inside, Daniel found scraps of equipment and a half-broken medkit. He brought it back to Tara and knelt beside her again. "Let me check your wounds," he said. She frowned. "You waste your strength." "Better to waste strength than lose a life," he answered. He cleaned the bandages, replacing them with fresh wrappings from the medkit. Tara winced but stayed silent. When he finished, he handed her a small canteen of water. She stared at it before drinking slowly. "You treat me as if I were one of your own," she said quietly. Daniel shrugged. "You're alive. That's enough." For the first time, she did not argue. Night fell, and Daniel set up a small fire, using scraps of wiring that still sparked. The glow filled the broken transport, casting light over the 2 of them. Daniel ate a ration pack and handed another to Tara. She hesitated again, but this time she took it without complaint. After a while, she spoke. "Do you think your people will accept me when we reach the beacon?" Daniel looked at her. "They'll have to." Her voice was bitter. "No. They will not see me as you do. To them, I am still the enemy. Then I'll stand between them and you, Daniel said simply. Tara studied him. Why? You owe me nothing. Daniel poked the fire lightly. I don't need a reason, it's just who I am. Her eyes softened, and for a moment she seemed less like a warrior and more like a person who had carried too many burdens. The next morning they moved again. Daniel carried her over broken ground, through craters and across collapsed walls. The beacon was still far, but it glowed faintly in the distance like a star guiding them forward. But the battlefield was not finished with them. As they crossed an open stretch of ground, a loud metallic roar echoed nearby. Daniel froze, his eyes snapping to the left. From behind a wrecked mech, a large scavenger unit emerged. It was twice the size of a man, its body covered in claws and weapons. Its red sensors locked onto them immediately. Daniel swore under his breath. He set Tara down behind a piece of rubble. Stay low. You cannot fight that thing alone, she warned. I don't have a choice. The machine charged forward, its claws slamming into the ground. Daniel rolled aside, firing his rifle. Sparks burst from the machine's armor, but it kept coming. It swung a claw, and Daniel barely ducked in time, the metal scraping against his shoulder guard. He fired, again aiming for its sensors. One shot struck true, and the machine staggered, its red eyes flickering. But it was still moving, still deadly. Your rifle will not stop it, Tara shouted. Aim for its joints. Daniel adjusted quickly, firing at the machine's legs, where the metal bent. The shots pierced deeper and the scavenger stumbled. Daniel kept firing, emptying his rifle until finally the machine collapsed with a heavy crash. Silence followed. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, his rifle smoking in his hands. Tara looked at him with wide eyes. You fought as if you had been trained to face such monsters. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. I've faced worse. He helped her back onto his shoulders and kept moving. By the time the sun began to set, they were closer to the beacon. It pulsed faintly, a reminder that safety might be near. But Daniel knew it would not be easy. As they rested for a moment, Tara spoke softly. Human. Yeah? When I first saw you, I thought you were a fool. Carrying me was madness. I believed you would only bring death on yourself. But now... She paused, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. Now I think perhaps I was wrong. Daniel glanced at her. That's the nicest thing you've said to me so far, Actually gave a small laugh, though it quickly faded. Do not mistake my words, I am still your enemy. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe. But enemies don't always stay enemies. The beacon's glow shimmered on the horizon. Ahead lay the promise of rescue, or more danger. Either way, Daniel knew he would not let go of the alien warrior he carried. And slowly, though she would never admit it, Tara had begun to believe him. The beacon flickered faintly in the distance, but it was still far away. Daniel Voss pushed forward, each step heavy with the weight of the alien warrior on his shoulders. His legs ached, his throat was dry, and sweat dripped down his forehead, but he refused to stop. He had promised himself and her that he would not leave her behind. Commander Tara remained silent for much of the march. Her pride kept her from admitting weakness, but her sharp eyes studied Daniel carefully. Every time he stumbled yet rose again, every time he kept walking when any normal soldier would have collapsed, she noticed. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not even the most advanced, but this one carried her as if his will alone could defy the impossible. At last, Daniel spotted the remains of a collapsed tower ahead. It rose above the ruins like a broken finger pointing at the sky. He decided it would make a good resting place. He lowered Tara onto a slab of stone and sat down nearby, breathing heavily. She tilted her head, her voice softer than usual. You are exhausted. Daniel gave a tired smile. Yeah, but I'm still moving. She studied him for a moment. Why? What gives you this strength? You are only human, fragile, breakable, yet you carry me as if your bones were made of iron. Daniel shrugged. Because I don't know how to quit. Tara looked at him quietly, as if trying to understand something she had never seen before. That night, they built a fire from scraps of wiring and fuel cells. The flames cast a soft glow on the broken stone walls, painting shadows across their tired faces. Daniel handed Tara a ration pack and kept one for himself. She hesitated, then opened it without protest this time. As they ate, Daniel asked, "Your people, the Cathari, why did they leave you?" Tara's expression hardened. "Because I am no longer useful. A warrior without legs cannot fight. To them I am already dead. Carrying me would only slow them down." Daniel shook his head. "That's not how we do things." She looked at him curiously. "What do humans do?" "We take care of each other," Daniel said firmly. "No matter what," Tara frowned. "Even if it means risking more lives?" "Yes," Daniel replied without hesitation. "Because leaving someone behind isn't an option, not for us." Her eyes softened just slightly. "Strange creatures, you humans. Strange and stubborn." Daniel chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." The next morning they continued their journey, but the land grew harsher. Jagged rocks cut into Daniel's boots, and the air was thick with smoke. The beacon still pulsed in the distance, but it never seemed closer. At one point, Daniel stumbled and nearly fell. Tara's hand shot out, grabbing his shoulder to steady him. Her grip was strong despite her injuries. "You push too hard," she said. "You will collapse." Daniel shook his head, adjusting her weight. "Not yet." "You cannot carry me forever," she pressed. "Your body will break." "Then I'll crawl," Daniel said with a small grin. For the first time, Tara almost smiled. Later that day, they came across the wreckage of an alien walker, one of Tara's people's war machines. Its armor was torn apart, but inside they found supplies, energy cells, repair tools, and even fragments of alloy plating. Daniel dragged the pieces back to their shelter that evening. He examined the scraps and then looked at Tara thoughtfully. "What are you staring at?" she asked. "I was thinking," Daniel said slowly. "Maybe I can make something for you, something to help you move." Her eyes narrowed. "Prosthetics? Out of broken metal? Impossible." Daniel smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I've made impossible things work before." For hours he worked by the fire, bending metal, adjusting wires and fitting parts together. Tara watched him, curiosity growing despite herself. Humans were known for adapting, for building tools from scraps, but seeing it up close was different. His hands were steady, his mind focused, and little by little, crude but functional shapes began to form. By dawn, Daniel presented his creation. 2 rough braces made of alloy, powered by salvaged energy cells. They were not elegant, not strong enough for running or fighting, but they could help her stand. Tara stared at them in silence. "Not perfect," Daniel admitted. "But maybe it's a start." She reached out slowly, her fingers brushing the metal. "You built this for me?" "Of course," Daniel said simply. "You shouldn't have to rely on me for everything." Tara's throat tightened. She was not used to such gestures. Her people believed in strength above all else. But this human had spent an entire night working for her without expecting anything in return. "Help me try," she whispered. Daniel nodded and helped her attach the braces. Slowly, with his support, she pushed herself upright. Her legs trembled, the braces sparking faintly. But for the first time since the battle, she stood. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, her eyes wide. I am standing." Daniel grinned. "Told you it wasn't impossible." For a long moment, Tara simply stood there, leaning slightly on him for balance. Then she said softly, "Perhaps I was wrong about humans." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's twice you've admitted that." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Do not get used to it." As days passed, the two of them learned to rely on each other more. Daniel carried her when the ground was too rough, but with the braces, she managed short distances on her own. Tara, in turn, taught Daniel how to spot hidden dangers in the ruins, how to recognize the faint hum of active mines, how to read the patterns of drones, how to find water in strange terrain. One evening, as they rested, Daniel asked, "Why did you fight this war? Why attack humans in the first place?" Tara was silent for a long time before answering. "Because my people feared you. They saw your kind spreading across the stars, building colonies, surviving where others could not. They called you reckless, dangerous, a threat to our future." Daniel looked at her carefully. "And what do you think now?" Tara met his gaze. "I think they were right to fear you, but not for the reasons they believed. Not because of your weapons or your numbers, because of this." She gestured toward the braces on her legs. "Because of your refusal to give up. Because you carry others, even when it makes no sense. That is what makes you dangerous." Daniel leaned back, staring into the fire. He didn't argue. He didn't need to. The bond between them grew, though neither spoke of it directly. She was still Qatari. He was still human. But the line between enemy and ally blurred with each passing day. One night, as they prepared to sleep, Tara said quietly, "Daniel." He glanced at her. "Yeah? If your people refuse to take me when we reach the beacon, will you still stand with me?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Yes." Her eyes softened, and for once, she let the silence speak for her. The beacon grew closer with each passing day, but so did the dangers. More drones patrolled the skies, and the ground itself seemed restless, cracking under the scars of war. Daniel knew the hardest part of their journey was still ahead, but he also knew one thing. He was no longer carrying just an enemy. He was carrying someone who had become more than that, someone who trusted him, someone who, despite everything, believed in him. And that bond, built in fire, pain, and struggle, was stronger than any weapon either side had ever created. The beacon pulsed steadily in the distance, a soft blue light cutting through the smoke-filled sky. It was closer now, no longer a far dream, but a reachable goal. Sergeant Daniel Voss carried Commander Tara across the cracked terrain, his steps, heavy but determined. Each hour of marching had brought them closer, and now hope burned within him like a flame that refused to die. Tara moved with the help of the braces Daniel had built for her, but she still needed his support for long stretches. Together they looked like two broken survivors leaning on each other, yet there was strength in their struggle. As they rested briefly behind a collapsed wall, Tara gazed at the beacon. Her voice was quiet but steady. "When we reach it, your people may not accept me. They will see me only as an enemy commander." Daniel adjusted the straps of his pack and met her eyes. "Then I'll make them see you differently." She tilted her head, her sharp features softened by exhaustion. "You would fight your own people? For me?" Daniel gave a small smile. "If I have to." Tara stared at him for a long moment before finally looking away. She said no more, but something in her expression had changed. The closer they came to the beacon, the more dangerous the land became. Automated defenses still operated around the area, designed to stop intruders. Daniel spotted old turrets half buried, in rubble, their barrels twitching faintly as if sniffing for movement. He crouched low, signaling Tara to stay behind a broken barrier. He whispered, "Stay close. Don't draw attention." They moved carefully, weaving between piles of debris. Twice Daniel had to pause as the turrets scanned the ground. One beam of red light swept dangerously close, but they remained still, until it passed. At last they reached a trench that led straight toward the beacon. Daniel helped Tara down, and they followed the path quietly, their breaths echoing in the silence. But then the ground shook. Daniel froze, his grip tightening on his rifle. From the shadows ahead, a large shape emerged. It was another scavenger unit, bigger than the last, its frame reinforced with heavy armor. Its eyes glowed bright red and its claws scraped against the stone as it moved. Tara's hand gripped Daniel's arm. "That one is stronger." Daniel raised his rifle. "Doesn't matter, we don't have a choice." The machine roared, charging toward them. Daniel fired rapidly, his shots striking sparks against the armor. The beastly machine kept advancing, unfazed. Its claw swung down, smashing into the trench wall, sending fragments flying. Daniel pulled Tara aside just in time. "Joints!" Tara shouted. "Aim for the joints!" Daniel dove to the side, rolling across the ground. He fired at the machine's legs, hitting the weak points where the metal bent. Sparks burst out and the machine stumbled but did not fall. The claw came again and Daniel barely avoided it. His rifle overheated, the barrel glowing red. He gritted his teeth. Then he heard Tara's voice. "Use the power cells." Daniel's eyes snapped to the pack on his back. Inside were spare energy cells from the walker they had scavenged. With quick hands, he pulled one free and slammed it against a sharp piece of metal, sparking it to life. "Cover your eyes," he shouted. He hurled the glowing cell toward the machine. It landed near its legs, and a burst of energy exploded, shaking the ground. The scavenger staggered, its sensors flickering wildly. Daniel didn't hesitate. He aimed and fired straight into the damaged joint. With a screech of tearing metal, the machine collapsed into the trench, its body smoking. Silence followed. Daniel lowered his rifle, breathing hard. Tara stared at him with something close to admiration. "You humans truly are mad." Daniel gave a tired grin. "Mad enough to survive." They continued forward, and at last, the beacon stood before them. It was taller than Daniel expected, a slim tower of blue light humming softly. The symbol of the Terran forces glowed faintly at its base. Daniel approached slowly, lowering Tara to the ground beside him. He reached for the controls, brushing away dust and ash. With a push of a button, the beacon flared to life, sending a bright signal into the sky. Daniel exhaled, relief washing over him. "They'll see that. They'll come." Tara looked up at the light. Her face was unreadable, but her voice was soft. "And when they do?" Daniel met her gaze. "I'll be standing beside you." Hours passed before the distant rumble of engines filled the air. Daniel looked up, spotting the faint shape of a Terran dropship cutting through the clouds. His chest tightened. Rescue was finally here. The ship descended, kicking up dust as it landed near the beacon. The hatch opened, and armed Marines poured out, weapons ready. Daniel raised a hand, shouting, "Hold your fire, friendly here!" The Marines paused, their rifles lowering as they recognized his uniform. But then their eyes fell on Tara. Immediately, their weapons snapped back up. One officer stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Sergeant Voss, step away from the enemy." Daniel stood firm. "She's not the enemy, not anymore. She's a commander of the Cathari," the officer barked. "She's dangerous, she should be left here." Daniel's jaw tightened. He moved slightly, placing himself between Tara and the soldiers. "I carried her across this battlefield. She fought to survive, same as us. She's alive because I refused to abandon her. And I won't abandon her now." The officer's eyes narrowed. "This is not your decision, Sergeant." Daniel's voice rang out, steady and strong. "Then make it my punishment, court-martial me later. But right now she comes with us." The soldiers shifted uneasily. None had ever seen a Marine stand so firmly for an enemy. The silence stretched until finally, the officer lowered his rifle with a frustrated sigh. "Very well, but she stays under guard." Daniel gave a small nod. "Fine, as long as she's with us." The dropship lifted into the sky, leaving the battlefield behind. Inside, Tara sat quietly, her golden eyes watching. The humans around her. None dared come close, but none touched her either. Not while Daniel sat at her side. After a long silence, she spoke softly, so only he could hear. "You risked everything for me, even your place among your people. Why?" Daniel leaned back against the seat, his tired eyes meeting hers. "Because no one deserves to be left behind. Not you. Not anyone." Tara's throat tightened. She had no words to answer, but her gaze said enough. When the dropship landed at the main fleet, news of what happened spread quickly. A human Marine, bringing back a Cathari commander alive, it was unheard of. Some called Daniel reckless, others called him foolish. But whispers also spread of something more, of a human who had shown compassion even to an enemy, and of an alien warrior who now stood in debt to him. Terra, once abandoned by her own kind, had found something unexpected in her enemy, a loyalty stronger than fear, a strength born not from weapons, but from the refusal to surrender. And Daniel Voss, against every order, had proven to the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon was not its firepower, but its heart. As the stars stretched out before them, the future was uncertain. War might still rage, lines might still divide, but one truth had been carved into history that day: humans never leave anyone behind.